Hello, welcome, and happy, wonderful, healthy New Year to you. Although for some of you might this year not seem to become such a year, but stay there, hang in there, you might be wrong at the very end and experience still a wonderful year. Yeah, maybe you are one of those that are experiencing right now more constriction, more noise out there, more pressure, and more speed on a daily life. Just quite the opposite of joy and liveliness. And resulting, your desire for freedom is growing. But the question still for you remains, how can you make it? How can you do this to get out of this very causes of the constriction, of the pressure and the speed? How is this going to happen? And why is it so difficult? And this is so difficult for many. Why is it so difficult to achieve a free, vibrant life filled with success and genuine meaning? And how are you going to make it anyway, besides or despite all the noise out there and whatever is going to happen this year? So stay in this video, stay tuned here. In this video, it's all about that, and especially about your path out of it and how you're going to make it and what this is most important here. What do you need to consider to look into it? Because this is, as usual, different from what you might expect here. I'm Marianne Böhm from the 618 bEvolution Crown's Path, where real kings result from, that are leading a free, sovereign life that is 100% aligned with your or with their true selves, so that they are independent from everything what's going on out there. They free themselves and they are just living their meaning and their success. In this video, I want to especially point out the meaning of the systems, the influence of the systems we're living in on our lives and on our lack of freedom, of the freedom feelings that we are lacking, all of that, so that you understand where you're coming from and what actually needs to be changed, which is usually something very different from what many people might think what they need. So stay tuned and we just dive in here. So first off, we want to have a look onto the systems we're living in, because the question is how you get out of it, how you get really into a free life where you can completely unfold what you want to unfold and how you can live what you are all about instead of living what your employer is all about or what people are all about that are trying to guide you in a certain direction, which is not your direction. And this is a very healthy desire to get out of such a situation. So the systems we are in, and where so many people are struggling to get out from, it has two pillars or two foundations, whatever we want to call it. It's first of all the outside system. So whatever we are considering as a system is the public offices, the laws, the society, how it is, like with schools, with administration, with governments, or with roads, with whatever you can imagine, the framework we are leading our lives within every day. So this is built for everyone. Everyone is part of it or is living within these frameworks. So, and what is really important to understand here, and that might turn your view a little bit already in the right direction, that these systems cannot exist without its internal systems. And the internal systems, it's you, it's your neighbor, it's your partner, it's me, it's all of us, more or less, in one way or the other. The internal systems is our thinking and actions. The outside systems are existing because of the human beings that are following with their thinking and actions certain rules, beliefs, and norms, which makes the system existing, correct? So once you change the thinking, the acting, the deciding and choosing, things in the outside world are changing accordingly. Makes sense? So, and systems have grown for a long time now. For a long time they're existing. They have grown through human beings taking over the thinking, the choosing, the deciding, the acting based on other people's thinking, choosing, deciding, acting, etc. Of other people's belief, rules, let's say laws in a way, not from government, but own laws. And so it was passed on from one to the next person. And so the system just kept going until today, where it became really tight and really crossing lines, I would say, in certain areas of the planet, like my home country, Germany, is very tight these days because of this, the system abusing more or less personal spaces of people. So, and this is important to look deeper into it. How can this happen? How could we have the system developed itself just like that as far as it got today? So, and this is important to hear to start to understand what the system actually is. The system is built on numerous other systems. It has numerous internal systems that are based on thinking and acting. And these are smaller systems within such, for example, hospitals. Let's go to your birth. This is where it all started, right? When you are born, usually, let's say in the usual situation framework, people are born in hospitals, right? So the hospital is its own life system, creating from beliefs, thinking, rules, choices, etc., from nurses, from doctors, from laws, etc., to make certain flows and frameworks happening. So when you look onto your own birth, you might get an idea already what's going on. Especially when you are of my generation, where babies in the 70s have been taken away from their mothers right after birth. There was an immediate disconnection, cut between mother and child, which caused immediate trauma. Because what happens here is that a baby gets into a really harsh fight for its life. Because those days they had the belief, whatever, the mother has to rest and the baby has to cry, has to learn to be alone and all that BS. So they took away the babies and created already a disruption of normal human being development in the very first life moments that created further programs right from there. Here, the baby learned to somehow do anything to survive, to try to adapt to the situation and get help as soon as possible and develop strategies to survive. That is the first adaptation program that a human being can develop. And that is a pretty harsh one. And based on that, other adaptation programs have been following. And this is the key word here, adaptation. Systems live from adapting people, from people that took over or are taken over beliefs, decisions, actions, the same way over and over again. This is where it starts, in a system of a hospital. I'm not saying it's everywhere the same way. I'm just giving you an example here. The next system is a very, very important one, of course, because that is your family system, whatever you called family as a child. Maybe you had parents, maybe you were in a foster or somewhere else. That environment was your main system, the main system that completely made you the human being you are today. So you took over their beliefs, their thinking, their decision making, their actions, until you started to questioning certain things. That is the taking over the parents' feelings, traumas, and all that, and adapting it into your system, because you are a system yourself. Your body is a system, and this is how you're adapting it through emotions. So later on, the next systems were following: school, education, career, or other professional pathways, etc., etc. So all these are systems, and every system is more or less either or part of the main society system of a culture, of a country, right? So we all are pretty aware of that, but maybe not how it really started and how early and why. Family systems shaped your life so deeply. And this is something many people are not aware. They think, I just forget my childhood. I just, it's over. I'm not talking about this anymore, and then it's done and I'm free. It's quite the opposite. From birth on, from the hospital system through the family system, there's so much, more or less, but so much in general, trauma going on that shapes the pathway of a human being, of an adult human being today, so that the adult is, when still unaware, not capable of taking free decisions into an independent lifestyle outside of existing systems, such as jobs, employments are systems. Why so many are struggling to leave an unloved and stressful job? Because the system of the job is a framework that they're aware of. Or I'm safe here, I'm being fed, I'm not free, but I'm okay. And they are used to it, to exist in that system like they were used to exist in a childhood family system. How would be the way out? Through awareness. I'll tell you how and why it works like that. Why is the family system so important to understand as the main shaping your life kind of system? Because, as I said already before, your body is a system itself, right? So as newborn, you come on planet Earth with a highly sensitive, complex body system. Not necessarily that's kind of sensitive where you can't stand the noise. So it's a sensitivity that has natural intuitional antennas. That's a natural state of a newborn being from a healthy body system. So when the shaping through the family system is happening, this changes. The highly sensitive body is adapting to all the external trauma shaping, let's say, and a switching of more and more antennas. So the trauma is getting stuck in the body. More and more programs are being adapted. More and more must do, wrong being, do this, not that, survival here, no freedom there, etc., is being adapted into the entire body system through the nervous system. That's a natural thing happening everywhere with every human being, more or less depending on the parental upbringing. And this is why systems are being easily adapted into a human being's life through their body system. And this is how these programs are running them up to today, that they follow the rules, they're doing what's expected, because that's just what they learn to do on a body level. They're not even thinking about this. Let's look deeper into the system, how these systems really run. What is their common engine here? And there's common ground. There's common ground between the internal and the external systems. So the common engine of the external systems, first of all, I want to start here, is indeed manipulation up to the point of abuse. And when you look around today, what's going on in the world, you might agree or not, I would say it's a standard in our societies that the system runs by manipulation up to the point of abuse. So what's happening here? Coercion, blackmail, violence, up to the point of sex abuse. Abuse of all kinds. This is exactly what, especially in the last years, became very apparent. When we look what was happening to people who were not really following one rule, went to the other direction, what happened, what was happening, from authorities or from other opinions, etc., etc. So, and now when you remember how your upbringing was, looking back into the family system, into the hospital system, what happened there already? Where did abuse and manipulation start, and how? How was this done? And I'm not saying that everybody is a mean person here that did something bad to you. That's not what I want to say. It's more about understanding how systems operate. It's even more unconscious than conscious. People just do because it was always done that way, which is actually the insane part of it, right? So this is just how we do things, right? You hear this at your workplace. This is how we do things here. You either do it or you can go. Okay. So this is how it already works. Manipulation, abuse, coercion, blackmail, violence in a verbal way. Screaming at people is violence. This is something I see with all, let's say, with all people, clients that come to me, working with me, all these topics rise when we just go into the background, look a little deeper where they were coming from. There is always some kind of abuse rising here. All kinds of abuse. Everybody has experienced this abuse or that form of abuse, several ones, that is thinkable here. And there is a lot you can think about. So when you look into your own upbringing, what kind of abuse have you walked through? And this is, as I say, this is the standard nowadays. It went, or it is, has come that way, that far, as we more or less are aware today. It even went so far that in the systems of today's, there is a heavily sexual abuse of very little minors involved in our systems, let's say, even though you would say, oh, I'm not part of that system. No, you're not. But all of it, it's part of our systems globally in the world. It's part of humanity. It became part of humanity. That's what I mean by becoming aware of what you're taking over, what kind of thinking, feelings, and actions without questioning them, which is the engine of systems. So as I said, with people come to me working with me, we always are being faced by abuse topics from the early past. I myself, I went through abuse of all kinds of, or different kinds that you can think of, more or less in different shades, whatever is there. So it seems to be, or it is very common. It's a common ground from the external to your internal also, because now we can go through the thinking and acting of individuals, why they are doing this, why they're acting that way, right? So, and that might bring you into your own upbringing, where, I give you some examples here now, where you maybe have experienced emotional narcissistic abuse, neglect, and rejection on a daily basis. That's deep trauma. This is so traumatic after a while. Or you might have experienced affection only in connection with performance, and only specific performance, only that kind of thing you were expected to do, not the kind of thing you would have liked to do and show up for, right? So only the way you were expected to. And then there's the conformity to the rules of parents, of teachers, of adults in general, the rule makers, even if the rules were highly toxic and extremely abusive in all different kinds of shades. For example, I work with people, they used to have borderline parents or one parent with that symptom, with physical abuse by the parents or neighbors or whatever, or other caregivers during the childhood. These things cause very early this deep insecurity, this missing trusting, this missing self-confidence, this missing I am worthy, I am free, I am important, I am somebody with a meaning here. This is not existing with these symptoms. It doesn't mean that it can come when you heal the symptoms, but in this situation, it's not there. You're disconnected from this natural feeling, I am. And that is the adulthood with plenty symptoms. Then there's this growing up in constant survival mode. There is no much money in the family. There is always limitation. You can't have. No, we can't afford. This is not possible. Always a no, no, no. There's always an ongoing overlooking of your needs as a child. Very traumatic as well. You're not being seen. You're not being appreciated. You don't have space to live. There's no room for you. So you're keeping on fighting for survival. You're making yourself small. You're making yourself unimportant. You're saying yes instead of no when you know mean. And then there's this question, why? Why did I have to go through this? Why are we living in such a system and such a situation, although we are aware of its harm, we are aware of this is not good for us, and why am I being part of this still? In case you might have this question. The causes have two backgrounds here. It's an individual cause. This is something, the causes, the reasons why are very individual, let's say. So for the individuals, because parents, caregivers, they have their own issues, they have their own experiences, where they're coming from, their own backgrounds. And this has been passed on for centuries and centuries and centuries, for over or even several thousands of years. It was an ongoing taking over from beliefs, traumas, this is how we do it, this is how it gets done, etc., without much questioning, without room for questioning. It was also a constant assault against so-called weaker individuals. Let's call them weaker ones, although they are not weaker, but it's the ones like in situations between men and women, when there is an abuse, that kind involved, when men go against women, usually the woman is the weaker one in that situation, physically, or against children, and the same kind of meaning. And this is where the system was able to build up onto. So the so-called stronger ones go against the weaker ones and control them. This is just how it works, right? And then there is a collective perspective here as well. How the whole system itself moves forward in that way. And this is based on the individual's decisions, choices, actions, beliefs, feelings, etc., that the systems could be built on that kind of various violence. So meaning a few could control many. Well, this is how it started, and this is how it was growing ever since up to today, where we see it so obviously all over the place when we go into social media, right? So, and once understanding this background, how it happens through you, that the system can exist this way, you might understand why so many people, self-employed people especially, struggle with getting out of it, especially when I have a look into my home country, Germany, again, where the abuse goes pretty far into the private lives. Meanwhile, again, this has all to do with the personal situation of every person in the place, in the country, in the society, and the ability of making different choices, the ability of free themselves in the very inside of their body systems. Yeah, and then there is why the systems are still stable, but crumbling, but still stable. Because what lies behind, it's the consequences. Besides the beliefs and dogmas, the fears of consequences is so strongly at places. The fear of, for example, exclusion, right? When you go into resistance, you are adversary, and everybody knows you, oh, that's a black sheep, that's a bad person, oh, we don't talk to that person, we cancel this person, right? Cancel culture is coming from there. It's a bullying tactic in systems, Bullying is one of the oldest tools in systems. Bullying and exclusion of those who dare to be themselves, who dare to question things, what is actually the right thing to do. And then there's the fear of being excluded as an adversary, as a black sheep, as somebody who's taking its own route. This is actually why the fears are being fed a lot more nowadays, so that people would choose to follow rather than being exposed to those who bully them for that. But this comes all with a high price when you choose to rather follow than standing up for yourself. Because this goes against your natural state and right of freedom. As a human being, as any animal and living being on this planet, you are naturally free. And you're giving it up because of fear of bullying. And if you would choose not to do so and would stand up for yourself, you had this free life without trauma, because then you have space to dissolve the trauma information from your body, to get it out of your system. Then you had the free life without consequences for just being your true self, which is your natural, of course. We wouldn't even need to talk about the right if it was not on a threat here. You had the free life with support for your independent path and not against it. And you had the free life for the development of your nature, finding out who you are and what your natural contribution is here, your meaning, where life really makes sense and joy and all that, and fulfillment. And resulting, you had a free life in natural health, in self-determination, which is normal. That should be standard. That is standard in a natural free life outside of the system. And here you see why you are right outside of this system. So the system what we have always have restricted people ever since it started to exist. And every day more and more people are realizing this and starting to get out of it. And you can be part of it. Systems are the stuff that prevents you from a free life. As long it is structured in this way as it is structured right now, anti-human. Now it's even more so through explosions of manipulations every day in social media, as I said before, and through AI. AI for sure is a very helpful tool for a system to shape your knowledge, to shape your, or let's say erase your knowledge, to shape your opinions, to shape your behavior, to bring you into a certain direction as if you were a child, to change your natural ways of being because you get slight correction of behavior and all that. And so here you see how the tools have changed meanwhile to lead humans in a certain direction. It seems to be a softer kind of abuse, but it is still an abuse. A very dangerous one. I'm not saying everything is bad, right? I'm just raising awareness here to look very carefully in the way how you are using these new technologies as soon as we are in those systems providing them. and questioning their intentions and watching your own intentions as well. So yeah, it seems we are in a real battle against humanity, against human values, and against the remaining well-being, after all, of humanity. We are in an energy that hopefully turns around when more and more people realize actually how far the system has interfered in our daily lives. And as long as people are still in those systems to making their livelihood there, to earning their money in that system, as long we are in this phase, in this transition of struggling to get out, finding ways, etc. And the confinement, the speed is just rising. Yeah, so now let's wrap it all up and find the way out. Find the exit. What's the exit strategy here? So the exit strategy is, I talk about that often. What always is the first step here is never just one step, is a strategy or not a strategy. It is a way, a process, and that starts within you. So the first step is you start focus on yourself and stop wasting your time, energy, and attention on what is going on the outside, because that is not being solved in few days or months. It's just continuing. It continues as long as we are being part of it as watching person, as a listening one, etc., as wondering one, as being interested in that once. It won't stop. So you can stop it right now by taking back the focus onto yourself. Going within, stop functioning outside in the media world, or stop functioning in things where you're not necessarily have to function or be. So how you do that, I give you some ideas here. I gave before in other videos as well. Check them out. You create and maintain an inner peace and reflection on a daily basis. Find a place to go in stillness. Create inner spaciousness. Go in expanse mode. Get out of this tightness. Get out of this noise and create your inner true space you have. That's the inner freedom. That's the freedom most people are looking for. And deepen your inner awareness about yourself. You can train this every day. Practice, practice. This is where your attention goes best. That's an investment already into yourself with your time and energy. Build up your inner strengths through that with more awareness about yourself, about your strength, by the way, about your power here. And cultivate your skills and strength, your natural ones, which cultivates your freedom. All of this cultivates your freedom. Stay focused on your own path instead of looking for a solution out there, and work on putting it into practice. And at the very end here, very important, most important for you that are struggling to get out, develop ideas and possibilities how to create your income outside of the existing systems, independently. What can you do? How can you make it? Where to start? With what? And with what later? Etc., etc. Put your energy into that. This is most relevant here. That is your existence. Especially when we're facing a very turbulent new year. Because so many struggle at this very point to get started. I have opened up my new space, the 618 Infinity Initiation. We start in this very freedom. We start right there where you are standing and wondering how to get started. So the Infinity Initiation starts on February 1st, but you can register right away today, immediately, and secure your seat today. All right? So it's no reason to wait. Make the right decision for you and take the first step. And here is a door for you. We will move out of the confines and the chaos and the inner tightness, the I can't breathe anymore, the distraction, the noise, and we will create your inner freedom, your expanse, a lot of space where you can go in and find possibilities that are aligned with you. Not coming from outside, from your friend, from your neighbors, do this, maybe this is something you like. No, not helpful. You want to find your answers within. That are the answers that last in your life because they come from source, from your source. And this is where all the information lies you are missing here. So get started to build solid ground under your feet now before it gets too turbulent. And here is the space for you. You find the link for your registration under the video in the description, and I will see you there and in the next video soon.